Okay, so in the last video, I applied fixed the map or the bat, scaled it down, and showed you how to set up UV maps on the model. Since then, in the interim, I've gone and adjusted the topology of the face to sort of make it fit more with this sort of snub nose that you see on a vampire bat, and added a little detail around the mouth for the jawline, so this lip, and they have this sort of split bottom lip on the front, so I added that, some detail for that, and then also added an eye ring for his eyelids, and then put some eyes in, just some spheres, and then using the UV maps that I had, reprojected those. I also adjusted the ears a little bit to change the shape to fit more with the examples that I had. So for this video, I want to show you how to go and rig this. Probably in the next video, then I'll go and sculpt some detail, but for now I just want to show you how to go about rigging the bat really quickly. So the way to do this, first I want to, right now I've got this single model, and I think I want to be able to rig this separately with the wings separate. So if I select the whole model and go back to edit mode, and then select just a face on the wing, and then hit the bracket that's going to just select that UV map, and then from there I can just hit the up arrow to scale and select the entire wing area. Then I can just right click and no, not right click, mesh, and then separate, and then separate just the selection, and that'll make it into its own part. Call that, double click up here and call them wings again. So now I have a body and wings. Let's make sure that the wings, so the wings doesn't need the body mat or the bat body or the bat head, since it only needs just the wing material. So I can lose, I've got to go back out to object mode, select just that object, and then I can just delete the head material off of the wings and the body. So now it's just the wing material on that, and then on the body I can delete the wing material. So now I have two parts, a body, well, 4 parts technically. I've got a body and 2 eyeballs and the wings. So if I want to go and set this up to rig it, and for the purposes of rigging, I'm going to probably just hide these wings again. So let me pull those. So these are the eyeballs that are in the wings, so spheres. Let's call this eye. Which one is that? Right eye. Or actually, it's left eye, L underscore I. And this one will be its R underscore I. I'll take let's hide the references again, since I just wanted to show what I had done in the interim. Let me move these wings down into the wings group, and then I can just hide that. So now I'm just left with the body, which is how I want to lay out the bones. So then if we go and add, with this collection selected, add a armature. It's just going to create a big giant bone, and that's because the bat is so small. So if you want to scale this, we go into edit mode, grab this top part of the bone and just scale the whole thing down. And then what we want to do is go back out to object mode, select this bone, and then in the tabs over on the right, the context menu, I'm going to select the armature, the little running person, and then hit viewport display, and then set it to be in front so that the bones will show up in front of the model, no matter what the orientation. So another thing we want to do is set it so that these bones will snap to be centered within the volume. So yeah, we can probably leave it, but we'll go ahead and turn that on for now. So the way to do that is to select the bone and just, or have it select volume here, and you want the target to be not closest, but either center or median. Let's see, center is snap transformation to center onto target, and then snap the medium onto the target. So let's do center for now. We'll see how that works. And then if you move the bone, it should stay centered in the let's try this. We'll grab this part. Oh, I'm in edit mode. Go into edit mode, grab this. So when you grab and drag, so that did not center. Oh, we have to have snapping turned on, sorry. So this is your snapping option for volume and center. We still have to have the magnet turned on. So now when you drag, it will stay center line on the object. So if you try to drag it off, you can drag it from left to right, but if you drag from the side forward, it will, well, it didn't stay centered. Perhaps median is what I want. Still then, it didn't. Maybe it's just for placement. Anyway, so what we want to do is figure out the selection of the bone position. Notice that as I dragged it now using the arrows, it did stay centered. It wants to center. How it's centering is going to the center line, which is this arrow, the line of the seemed like it was centering. So this will be our first bone. We will, in the armature, we're going to call this spine 1. And what you want to do is you want to set up sort of a beginning or base of the spine, and then have it also have a base of the hips. So we're going to just drag this to something right there, and what we can do is drag this to be up where we want the clavicle. From there, so the bones are going to get really big, and if you want to fix that in terms of the bone, you can also go under viewport display, and instead of octahedral, set it to B bone, which is like a box bone, which would be this box setting, and you can change should be able to change the scale of the box then, but perhaps B bone's not right. It's based on the envelope. There's the envelope. So envelope just shows the influence of the bone. I'm going to keep it at octahedral now, though, because it will show the orientation of the bone as well. So let's go back to edit. And what you want to do is just insert bones into this setup. I could also just extrude bones from it, but I like to basically find the position of a bone in terms of location. Let's go to the side view. Viewpoint. Right? Yeah. You can tell the bone's a little bit oriented wrong. Let's look at the item. So yeah, it's got some rotation on the bone. Let's go 0 on the roll. Nope. Let's look at the object mode. Now it's 0 rotation. For some reason, it just looked like you could see the top in the orthogonal side view. So if you go to viewpoint again from the right. Alright, so now if you just select the bone and armature, you can split it. Sorry. Oh, subdivide. So it just creates a second bone in between. Then we can hit G and G. So this will be the spine. This can be the head. This will be the head. So this will be the neck. And the torso for this. Pull one up to here. Then we can do another split here. Or we can make it so that it's shorter to here and that the torso itself won't bend like this. So it's probably the right way to go. Yeah, that looks... because this would be like where the rib cage would join, so there's a lot less flex in the ribs. Alright, so there's our spine set up, and we can go and rename those bones. So if you select this one, that should be spine 2. This one will be spine 3. Neck. And then head. So then for the head, we want to make a jaw bone. And probably we could bring that, we want it to be parented to the head, but we want it to be separate from the head. So what we can do is, in edit mode, select this front. Let's go to the side viewpoint. Right. So now if we hit select that, hit Control E to extrude. That's just going to pull another bone off of it. And if you select that bone, and then over in the context, you take its relation and take it and make it not connected to the head, you can then grab the bone and move it separate from the head, and you're going to get this little dotted line as a connection, so to show that it's a child of the head bone, so that when you move the head bone, the jaw will move. But now you can offset the jaw so that it rotates correctly for the bat from the way the jaw would. So we'll leave that. Then from there, we probably want to add another tongue rig so we can stick the tongue out and make it sort of move for the bat from the head. So we can select this bone again, go to view, and the right is F2. So in this mode, if you hit F2, my keyboard commands aren't working, so it'd be, yeah. So this is why, for some reason, my keyboard commands on my keyboard won't work. I don't know if I have F-lock turned on or num-lock. Nope. View. We'll just go to right. Select this. Control E. Pull out another bone, and then again unconnect it. Select the bone. Pull it back. So for this one, I'm going to turn on our. Can't really see the origin of the tongue. Let's go back to object. I'm going to make this Wireframe. Then we can see the origin of the tongue. So let's go for the bones, edit, pull this back to the origin, and probably make 3 bones for the tongue. The main thing is you want to make sure that the tongue's origin is at the right location. So probably from there to here, and then we'll just extrude out points from there. So Control E and Control E. Just want to make sure, get some weird overlay. This color of this bone is odd. It's probably pretty good. I just want to check and name these now. So it's from the head. Then we've got head 1. This is the jaw. And then this one is the tongue 1. And we can, oops, spelled tongue wrong. Paste 2 for the second one, and paste 3 for the third. Okay, so now we have tongue, the ability to control the tongue, the jaws. Probably don't need to rotate the eye because you can't really see an iris on it, but we may want to be able to modify the ears using some bones. So for that, we'll go ahead and add, let's go back to our right view. Sorry, viewpoint, right. Select our end of our head bone and Control E. Now again, turn off connected. We'll call this bone. I'm going to move it back to probably coming off the ear, like the top pointing up this way. We'll probably want to position it looking at it from the front. Get it, for some reason, I've got snapping turned on, sorry. So we have like a bone to control this point of the ear, and we can fan out some so that we can tweak the ear, kind of make it look like he's angling for sonar. We're going to call this ear 1. And then from that we can just duplicate. So let's duplicate the bone. And we will position it. Let's go to the front again. This will just be sort of the middle ring. We do want to make sure that it sort of angles from the right point. So pose, let's go to view right. So that it's actually in the ear, like that. Viewpoint for the front. duplicate it again. I just copied it. Oops. Hope it, no, I copied the whole armature. Excuse me. Let me delete this armature. Here's the ear. Make sure, yeah, just that. So that'll be ear 2. Actually, you want on these, since they're off the center line, we want to give them the designation for their side of the body so we can mirror them. So this would be ear 1 dot L, and this would be ear 2 dot L. Duplicate. Armature, duplicate. Let's go to the front. And on this one, probably want this to orient from the bottom, because like this flesh, this part of the flesh is going to be on the earlobe is going to be sort of locked at the jaw since it pins into it. Let's go to the right. This is okay, I think, because this will control this part of the lower lobe. View, right. Yeah, and it connects. Maybe bring it forward like there, and this can come back. Yeah, and this will be ear 3 dot L. So then we'll be able to mimic those, or duplicate those across, or mirror those across as well when we once we get the rest of the body set up. So now we want to go to the chest bone where it inserts into the neck. Probably pull the neck back. Just a ring like there, so we can pull a clavicle off of it. And again, we can, with that selected, we can hit Control E and just pull out another bone, and this one will come to the side and back to the arm. And this is where we're going to start using that volumetric snap. So if we turn this on, we'll do closest. See how it finds the center of that ring as I just moved it. Now the other thing we may want to do is we may want to, instead of having this connected at the joint here, we may want to disconnect it and move the point off. Oops. Let's just move this out a little bit so we can move that down, grab this, and move it to the center line. So you see again it finds that center ring, and this is finding the center of this area here, but you notice that it came off the front. So what I'm trying to say is, like, if we want this clavicle, let's assume there's some muscle off of the let's turn back, off of the body, and this thing is sort of a rotation point. Where do we want it to rotate from? Where is it locked into the skeleton? Doing it from the center instead of from the neck helps to give it sort of an orientation point so that things open up and sort of scale without having to do fan bones to compensate. So we're going to go ahead and do that. Let me go ahead and name that. Then this will be clavicle dot L. And then from there, I can hit Control E, drag that out, and just grab the point and find the center of the ring. Notice that it just oriented because it's finding the center of the volume with snap and this volume to closest set. So that'll be my arm. Control L and then W and move that to the hand. Notice that it finds it's a really nice, easy way. I like this a lot. Makes it a lot easier than trying to go and manually like find these points. So now for this one, there's probably no wrist that would flex this, and if there was, it'd be problematic in terms of animation. So we're going to take this bone and just leave it as is. Just put it in the center of the hand, at the center of the spiral. Then we'll extrude out from there. So Control E, and this will be our thumb. Just take it to that point. It's fine if it doesn't quite match up right. We could always disconnect it. In fact, let's do that because we don't want to close this part out. So let's take the connection. We'll move this off a little and then just put it at the center of the wing, this one here. We can extrude out. So notice I'm not being super careful or anything in terms of how the bones orient or rotate or anything, because we can come back and fix that pretty manually as well later. Don't want this to bend. I think 2 is fine for that. Although, yeah, we'll just split this. I'm not even sure how many joints there should be on there. I just gave it 3. Yeah, we will subdivide so that's, yeah. Let's move it up in the range. Oops. Yeah, it should work. And then with this offset, it'll have a nice joint to roll off from there. Then we can go back. Let's go ahead and name those as we're going. So this will. Lost my ability to edit for a second. Edit. Okay, this will be from the clavicle. This is the upper arm. .L. This will be the forearm. I could name these wing something, but I mean they're mimicking human bones anyway, so why not? This will be thumb 1.L. This one, and thumb 2.L. The reason for the .L part is so that when we do our mirror, it'll be able to pick up the bones and mirror them in position across the center line. Thumb 3.L. Alright, so then we'll select our forearm again. Select this tip of it, and then Control E, extrude, and we will hit W and manually move that to this kind of locked knuckle joint. And I notice how big the bone gets here. It starts to kind of obstruct the other bones. That's okay for now. We'll fix that. We can, like I said, we can show that in bone mode or box bone mode later, or just leave it as it is. It won't. It actually might even help with the animation. We can also hide bones and create like an IK setup so that we can just grab a point here and be able to move the arm that way. Control. I just went back and selected the forearm and bone. Control E, extrude, select, W. I'm just moving it to the center line. I'm just going to make these beginning bones for each one, so I don't have to go and rename a bunch of times. Control E. Went back and selected the forearm bone. Control E. Extrude. W. Move that to this joint. Go back and select the wrist bone. Control E. Extrude. W. And pull that to that center. So again, because we've got that volumetric snapping, it finds the mesh and snaps, which is great. Okay, so now let's go and name these. So this one I'm assuming is the pinky, since it would be the inside of the back side of the hand. So let's find. This was our thumb. This is our index. So it'd be index 1.L, and then under that is index 2.L. And this is just a little lead bone that is in the bad anatomy. It doesn't actually flex or anything, so in some ways we could just go with this bone and marry these to it, but I don't know, it may flex some, I'm not sure. So I went ahead and modeled it. This is your the middle finger, so this would be middle 1.L. Then this one is the ring 1.L. Just thinking about it from human anatomy, or spelled ring wrong. There. And then pinky 1.L. Now then from there we can extrude, hit W, position at the joint, extrude, W, position at the joint, extrude, W, and position at the joint. So those got nice and centered. Control E, extrude, W, move it to the center. Control E, extrude, W. Alright, and these. E, W, E, W. Alright, so there's our bones for the arms. Let's check the names just to be sure. So it should be middle. Let me open up this window a little bit. Yeah, so it's a little off. Let's do middle 2.L. Whoops, middle 3.L. The main thing is that the .Ls are there. It doesn't really matter if you mess it up in terms of the name. 4.L. And then ring 2.L. Ring 3.L. Pinky 2, pinky 3.L. Okay, that's those. Now we just need to do the hips, or do the hips and the legs. So for that, I can grab this one and I'm in edit mode. Trying to think of how to extrude this. Let's go ahead and we want it to be a child of this, so I'm going to go ahead and just Control E extrude, pull that whole thing, we're going to disconnect it, and then pull the whole thing back so I can then move the whole. So now we have that. So the problem with this is that it's going to extrude, if it's connected as a parent off of this tip, it will rotate with this point if we bend it. We don't want that because that's going to throw off. It's going to throw the relationship off. So what we can do actually is, let me close these. Instead of this being a child of spine 1 or spine 2, we can make it a child of spine 1. Here, we'll do it in the relationship. So in the relation, instead of, oh, it is on spine 1. It's weird because it looks like it's, no, it is. It's, so let's just make it a child of the armature. Or get rid of that connection. That'll just move it out to the loose end of the armature, and we'll call this hips 1. And then move that into position so that it's in the right place. From there we can grab this one and move it. Okay, so what, notice that it rotated oddly here, but we can fix that in a minute. What I want to do is make this so that it shifts with this, but keeps its position relative to the base. So in order to do that, you can create, in your pose, you can create a relationship that will parent this. Set an active bone as the parent of the selected bones. Let's see what that does. Got that bone and then this one. Wait, so this one and then this. Oops, this one. Parent, make. Nope. Let's do it this way. Index. I shouldn't have a .L in there. Or spine, I'm sorry, I was doing. So notice that the joint, what I'm saying is if we go into pose mode with this selected, and then we select that bone, hit E, and rotate. No, it keeps the relationship. That's fine. Okay, that's all right then. So we'll go back out to object. That's fine. Whoops. Select the bones. Edit mode. Go into the view so we can see that the position's right. Viewpoint. Right. Want to basically bring this to the hips or close, something like that, and then Control E another to pull off for the tail. And what we want to do probably is maybe even pull off a tailbone even though he doesn't have a tail, so that we can use that to control the flap if we want to in the game. So that'll become like a little flap control. The skin between the legs there. Then, yeah. Let's see. Yeah. From this one again, extrude off just one, and then position it in the center ring here. Just grabbing that point. We'll call this, let's see, what do we have? We've got hips 1, and this will be hips 2. We'll call this under hips 2, we'll call this tail. And then this will be hips 3, or hips dot L. It's a little weird on the naming convention. Let's call this one lower spine. So lower spine 1, lower spine 2. Better to be specific. And hips.L then works. And from there we can select this, Control E, pull that out, W to get it on the knee, Control E, pull that out, W to get it in the ankle, I guess is what this is. And then from there, we want to have a way of rotating this. We could offset a bunch of fingers, but then we don't have a way of rotating this. So I'm going to hit Control E, pull out 1 here to be this foot. And we'll go ahead and position that so that it's centered. And then we can do Control E, pulling off 1, and we'll disconnect it by turning off connected. W, I'm just going to move it up and then grab its base and then shift that to be located in the center ring. Same thing with the tip there. Yeah, so now it's going to be connected to that. We'll do that again, or we can just duplicate this bone. I don't want to duplicate the armature, I want to duplicate the bone. Yeah, we'll just extrude it off of this. Control E, disconnect, W, pull that up. We'll get it right here in a sec. E, pull that, disconnect, make sure that it's not connected. Pull that off. Control E, do it again, W, disconnect it and pull it off. And one more, Control E, W. Whoops, I forgot to disconnect it. Pull that off. Okay, so now we can just grab the bases of each one of these, W, and just get those centered in their right position at the joints. This is like light years faster than the way this works in Maya. I mean, you can do an auto setup, you can do auto rig in Blender as well, but when you don't have a rig that matches the shape like you would with a bat, I don't know if there's an auto rig for bats. Not that there couldn't be. Maya's got a nice little set up nulls and then position, and Blender's works similar. But it's nice to manually make your rig for something like this so you can have control over how the rig gets generated. So then do, let's get these fingers named. So where are we on the hips? Hip cell, this will be leg top dot L. This will be leg bottom dot L. Foot dot L, and then this will be pinky toe dot L. This will be ring toe middle toe and index toe dot L. And these could just as easily be one, toe 1, toe 2, toe 3, but then you end up, or maybe it's toe A. I'm going to keep them so I know which one I'm dealing with. So this would be like big toe dot L. All right, and then just extrude again off of these. Just grabbing the tips and extruding them off. And then W, position. Oops. And then go and rename these. One. And that is that. Now, what we can do is we want to select basically the original bone, or actually all the bones that we want to mirror. So across, which would be these, plus the clavicle and the hip. So basically those bones. And then if you just do armature and then symmetrize, we flip it, and now we have all the bones in position on the other side of the body. And if you look at them, they have a dot R. So hips, leg top, leg bottom dot R, foot dot R, pinky toe dot R, and then the same with once we get to our spine and our clavicles, we have clavicle.r, upper arm.r. If you select them, they're in the right position. Now, all we have left to do, select all of our bones, and then select the one bone that is our parent bone, that spine. And what we need to do is say armature and bone roll. Recalculate roll to active bone. And what that's going to do is it rotates. Notice that right here on our hip. Let me undo that. I'll show you what happened. If I undo, notice how this was off and these angles are off. Let me show you when I apply it. So if we go armature, bone roll, recalculate roll, active bone, everything aligns and becomes oriented based on the position of the bone relative. So the idea then is that when we do movement on the bone, so if we select this and we had it set for local orientation and hit E, not local, normal, then you get a normalized roll of the bone that is going to rotate relative to its actual orientation. Okay, you'll see this in a minute. All right, so now edit object mode. We can turn off X-ray. There's our skeleton. Now I could go and do a bunch of setup where I create some IK and stuff, but there are tutorials on how to do that, and it's pretty straightforward. And to be honest, we don't really need it for this. I just want to go ahead and show how this thing animates once we apply, once we rig it in terms of the armature. So if we turn on now our wings and we select our wings and our body and then our skeleton, and go to Object. What we want to do is Parent, Armature Deform, and with Automatic Weights. Now we have a rigged bat. And the way you can see that is if we go into, with the skeleton selected, go into pose mode. When we rotate this, we get our movement, and you notice it does a pretty good job of averaging the wing across the body. I mean, not great. We'll have to clean it up with some weights, but it's okay. Yeah, it needs some cleaning up. But anyway, that's how you can rig the bat. I've got to get that into position. There we go. In the next video, I will go and select, let me go ahead and select this rig now and turn off the armature. I'm just going to turn off the in front so that it sort of penetrates the body now, just for be able to talk about this. In the next video, I want to go and now actually sculpt using the mesh. Oops, back out and edit. Object mode, sculpt this mesh to add a lot more detail using the deform or the multi-res modifier and the sculpt tools. And then from that I can bake normal maps and actually go in and paint texture maps and maybe even add some fur across the top of the body. And that'll be as far as we take this bat. I may cover weight painting. The way you would basically weight paint is if you select whichever object you want to edit, and then if you just say go into instead of object mode, weight paint, and then the way you edit the weights is once we made this thing a weighted mesh, we basically got a bunch of vertex groups on it. So if we look at the lower or the spine, like lower spine, you can see how the lower spine is applied across this, and you can tell it's obviously not perfect because it's not even. It should be at least in the center here. That looks a little bit better. Tail, so the tail doesn't match to anything because we're going to use it to control these wings. And then the spine, well, just trying to find the spine. There we go. Spine 1, spine 2, spine 3. So there must be, I'm guessing, spine 1. There's something weird about the orientation. Not that it matters that much, but we can obviously go and with the weight paint, if you go into tool, while you're in this weight painting mode, you've got control of the weight. So if I want to activate these, I just paint across them. Same thing here for the bone. And then you can do smooths to even it out, activate it up here, whatever. That's, typical weight painting, and you can look at some of my other tutorials that I've done in Maya to see how that does. I will say, if you look at the wings and go to weight paint, and then look at, let's look at the spine. We'll see why. Here we go. So you can see that the spine has some influence. You don't want this spine to have any influence out here on the wing, so all you have to do to turn that off is to turn the strength down and then just yeah, I've got it strength turned. Oh, I'm set on blur, sorry. Set it to paint, turn the weight down, and then just paint blue across. Maybe this is okay. Anything that it shouldn't affect. Spine 1. Notice spine 1 doesn't even have any influence over here. So we should probably add that. Let's make a weight here. Just paint across to something like that. Then we can blur it. Then go to paint and turn that off and get rid of any influences out here and out here. Spine 2, same thing. Spine 3, same thing. And then neck is fine, head's fine, all of those will be fine. Ears we'll check out in a minute. Clavicle is probably okay for the wing. Then the upper arm is where you start to see how we can make this work better. So the upper arm's got complete control over these, and then we can just use the blur tool to start to blend across. Make sure my blur's strength is set right. And what we don't want to do is make it so that this has any influence too far out here. So if we go back to paint, yeah, we can just basically turn it off once it gets several points removed from the wing. And that'll just allow it to stretch and fold nicely into the body. Let's look at the forearm, same thing. We can make the and blur it just for these. Then you get into, and this is just going to take a little bit of back and forth. We don't want to do the thumb right now. We'll do the pinky, work backwards. So pinky 1. So pinky 1 has got, like, this is just way too much influence out here. We'll blur. And then just paint blue there. You don't care, don't want this lifting anything from here. It might stretch, but these are, because they're connected, they'll do it, so you don't need to attach pinky 1 to this. Then if you look at pinky 2, yeah, so it's got this weird extra control out here, which it doesn't really need. We'll blur this in a sec. Pinky 3, that's okay. Let's blur it. What we'll do is we can hide these bones, the actual bone, the armature rig, and let's just turn it off. And then if we go to select our wings, weight paint, then we can see, we could probably even hide that. Then we can see these pin bones that we actually do want to be pretty hardly aligned, or locked basically to the bones. So you can paint your weights like this. Let's see, pinky 2, this was weird. Yeah, that probably, because of the first bone, connects. And we might even subdivide this mesh and apply the armature to get it to align better. But I'll leave that up to you in terms of how you're working on your model. So we can come back and turn our visibility back on, and go into pose mode. Oops, was a skeleton. Yeah, it's pretty good. And what you can do to get this just right is do some extreme positioning on your wings. You know, go into pose mode like this, and maybe pull this bone in. And then if you go and you paint, go back out, object, paint, weight mode, and then select the appropriate bones or bone groups, and that would be pinky, like these. You can start to smooth. So if I run this, notice that the position shift by running the blur across, and I'm basically just sort of trying to find an average between bones to get them to line up. Pinky 3, maybe just too much control here. I might need to smudge it back, yeah, like that, and then blur that. So you see how to get it to work from a kind of animated pose-based selection method, so that everything kind of blends. And this is where, you know, if you're getting these extremes like that, and probably even because this is happening where we're getting this stretch here, and theoretically, you know, the wing would bend down as he's lifting his arm, and then flap up when he's catching the wind. We'd want to get an intermittent bone in here. We drag a bone off here and have it be controlling the center line here so that it blends a little bit better, and the same thing between these, and then have those intermittent bones be averaged between the fingers as they open and close, and the same thing here, so that averaging wise the whole thing just works better, kind of, and you can animate those bones to catch kind of up and down as the wind gets caught. Hopefully that makes sense. Maybe we'll do a video about how to animate this thing once it's finally rigged and textured. Anyway, that's rigging the bats. I hope you liked the video. If you have any questions, just post them in the comments.